All right, folks, we are here. We're back in Washington, D.C. We have a lot to do. So, right there, that's the D.C. courthouse. That's the HHS building. Obviously, that's the house. The Senate offices are on the other side. The Rayburn building. On this side, it's the Hart building. No, I'm sorry, it's the Hart building. Hey, what's up, Jay Renmo? How you doing? Messy Mel, how you doing? You know where we're at. Let me see if I can walk this way just so I can give you guys a cool view. So that's the DC courthouse. That's where the cases that I have preferred against the county of Napa. I do have a case with the United States Department of Justice that's active there. But unlike I've met a lot of people here, and they're actually engaged against some of the agencies here. My legal matter with the DOJ is not against them. It's a request for them to use their power, their compulsory power, investigative power, to get things done. A lot of people are filing complaints to the FBI, which I did. I made an official request for an investigation into murder for hire. I had also spoke to ATF, which gets into the whole complex dynamic of what I'm doing right here. I'm here to file a complaint against Congressman Mike Thompson. He had initiated a congressional inquiry into that to the United States Department of Justice to request a situation report, which is something that your elected representative can do on your behalf. A request to the DOJ or other federal agencies to give you a situation report like, hey, where's this at? I'm reaching out on behalf of my constituent. They've notified me that X, Y, and Z. And so we are making a request for a status update. And so Mike Thompson initiated that into the FBI request or to the FBI inquiry relative to my spouse that was potentially setting a trap. Now remember, the people that were unalive, the victims, they were all walked into traps by people that they know. Everybody, my first wife's father, Mariana, etc. So that's what's going on in that building over there. It's not against the DOJ. It's a request for the DOJ to use the power that they have to conduct an investigation. FBI is not the Federal Bureau of Prosecution. It is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So they investigate, and the U.S. attorneys would prosecute should they determine there's enough evidence. Now, it's ironic that I'm standing right here right now, where I'm walking right here. This is the Grant Monument, right? That's where everybody showed up that day. It was a very, very small crowd. And right there, people showed up and they were telling their stories for the We Shall Be Free thing, right? It wasn't that many people. And I was just driving one of the parents, Carla Jimenez Lopez. Some of y'all were here probably observing that thing while I was live. I don't know why anybody would pick the Grant Monument unless they're just trying to fluff their own ego. There's a lot more effective places that people could have been set up. But probably the most ironic thing was the whole town was booked for another event. It was Pride. So the whole time people were here telling their story, you could probably hear music in the background go because there was a concert going on right there. So somebody didn't do their due diligence to really check it out. But at that monument right there, like I said, I was just here to drive and support Carla Jimenez Lopez, but I told her, like, don't ask me to get involved in none of this. I don't ride with these people. I don't like what they do and what they say and how they say it. And sure enough, that day, the dude was talking a whole bunch of stuff that really shouldn't be said. And I'll be honest, when I hear people say some things that kind of lean towards violence or make threats towards upper echelon kind of stuff, I get the hell away from them people, because a lot of them aren't put together like that, and they're talking a whole bunch of stuff out of the side of their neck that they're not capable of. And unfortunately, some of those people are putting words in people's mouths, or their mouth is writing a check that those people's asses could not cash if necessary. You know, they're talking about soccer moms and regular people. Surely there are people who could, get down with the get down, but it's not necessary. There's other ways. And so I was standing right there at the Grant Memorial, and everybody was live, and all the people that were here for that dismal show showing of people, because they're making it seem like there was going to be thousands of people here and it was going to be the next dang thing. But it wasn't. It was a small pocket of people that pretty much just came, spent all kinds of money and resources to get here, to go live and complain right there. So it was not tangible. The amount of paper it would have required, there was a whole bunch of math that people just were refusing to acknowledge, and they spent a whole lot of money to come here, and there was no proof in the pudding. So it was kind of abhorrent to see. And I hear a lot of people talk things on here, but they don't share, how do you say, wouldn't it be wiser to teach these people how to fight for themselves than to be this like, hey, I'll take care of your thing, when they don't really take care of it. Some of these folks that step out there and say, hey, I'll fix it, or for a certain, the dude that was right there doing that thing, he showed up in California. Him and his team showed up in California, and they said we're not going to do anything until people start fundraising for us. So things like that are something that folks need to be aware of. Well, you're not going to help people unless they fundraise for you. So stuff like that, a lot of people didn't have the privilege of hearing that, but they were duly informed. If somebody's going to show up and say, hey, I'm not here to help anybody unless they fundraise for me, and it doesn't have any significant proof that they've done anything effective. Some of these people are saying, hey, give me $2,800 or $3,000, and I'll send a letter to your elected representative. I'll send a letter to the Supreme Court, which does absolutely nothing. Sending a letter up there, come on, man, get off the gas. But instead of teaching people how to fight at their own battlefronts, people are saying, hey, shoot me a couple $1,000 and I'll do the fighting for you. It's a scheme. This is what you got to do. You got to bring your little happy butts up here. You got to do your own research and do your own fighting. Surely you can learn from other people, and there's help to be had. But if people are saying, flip me a few stacks of money, and then maybe I'll help, it's like, come on. You can't see the sleight of hand. All right. So anywho, I've seen quite a bit as I walk around this area. I've seen a lot. So here's where your congressmen are, right? On the other side, there's the House. Behind the House is the Supreme Court. There is the DC court right there that has purview over all these buildings. There's Health and Human Services. Some of y'all may have seen me when I was there multiple times. When they were out there calling to action in California, I was always here with my megaphone and trying to speak out and have our voices heard. Now, the senator's office is on the other side. That's the Rayburn building. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is the Rayburn building. That's the Hart building on the other side. So there's the Cannon building, Rayburn. So your elected officials for Congress will be here. The Hart building's on the other side over there by the Supreme Court. My apologies. I've got my bearings all mixed up right now. But I just left it's a non-governmental agency that I guess conducts investigations into like congressional oversight. I thought it was like an official body within, the mechanism of Congress and Senate here, but it's not. It's an independent, non-governmental investigative body. And so we are 100% requesting an investigation into Congressman Mike Thompson. He's out there raising a whole bunch of hooting and he's hollering all over Napa County, but flat out refuses to give me an ECAT, which is the findings of his congressional investigation. Now, remember, I went to Congressman Mike Thompson before all this happened. I got all this in writing and said, hey, the expectation of these crazy people is for me to go into that courtroom as a means to protect my son, that I got to say stuff that's just bananas and crazy that I'm not supposed to have to. And Mike Thompson did a whole bunch of nothing. So it's reasonable to ask, where's those findings at? So him and his staff are being named. They're being added to John Anaya versus County of Napa et al., Washington, D.C. I have the documents here. The initial filing had a list, but that list included 50 unnamed does, which I have to now correct that to include those does. And those documents are in here. We got a lot in here. Got a lot to do. This is what it takes. And there's still, even with all this energy and effort, there's no guarantee. So when people make promises that they can, and we could do this, and we're national. Anytime I hear people where they start the conversation talking about how they're nationally recognized and qualified and national, all this, that should be a first red flag. Because people that are really good at what they do, they don't have to like boast and brag, and it's a, how you say, now I don't want to say a Napoleon complex or whatever, but it sounds goofy. Like if I was beautiful and handsome and I was just saying, hey, you know what, I'm the most handsomest man in the country, and I won all of this, and it would sound stupid and ridiculous. So when these people that are trying to pull money from folks' pockets, when they say stuff like that, it just sounds kind of ridiculous. Because when it comes to family court, it's so different all across the country. There's similarities, there's common denominators, there's playbooks, but each county and state has its own rules and laws. And some of these folks are making promises that they sure enough can't keep. All right, so we're at the Cannon Building. This is where the Narco-Terrorism Summit took place for CPAC. It was an amazing event. I walked into a room full of people that were so brave, because there was people that came here from Mexico. There was people that were in Venezuela and Central and South America, military attaches. But I was just so impressed by the courage of the people that were here for the CPAC Summit, because they're standing in opposition to the cartel from within the interior of Mexico. Like, it's one thing for us to do it here. It's relatively safe. We got a good amount of protection. But a lot of these people that were keynote speaking were doing this from within the interior of Mexico. And that means they're within striking distance of those nasty cartel people. And so their courage was impressive. The first keynote speaker that was here that day, I think he lost 5 of his family members, and yet here he is. They're turning to America and saying, hey, can we work together to eradicate this problem that exists? Because it's harmful to both of our countries. You have things that go that way, and you have things that come this way. And it's devastating the people that are there, and it's devastating our country. So on January 25th, 2025, when the executive order went in place identifying the cartels as FTOs, I don't think people understand the significance of that. That's what it took for them to clear up El Salvador, was because all the predecessors to Bukele, they didn't identify the gangs as terrorists. They were just calling them gangs or organized crime. But he came in, he changed it. Just like on January 25th, 2025, that was the significant executive order that went in place that day. And Mexico has yet to make that leap yet. And that's what those people were showing up is. I mean, and like, I hope that I hope at some point people understand it's easier said than done. We can sit back here from the safety of our country and we can criticize, but the cartels are brutal, man. They are brutal. When they send a message, they send it. And so those people standing their business there means they're putting everything out there on the line. So it's far easier, for us to say, hey, they're not doing enough. So sometimes I've said that from the outset. It may take somebody externally to come and eradicate that problem, because there's the money, there's the fear element. I mean, people can say Scheinbaum's not doing her job and this and that, and she's involved. People talk about Morena and they talk about the PRI, the PRI, but in reality, anybody can get touched down there by those people. So any decision that's made politically or otherwise, those people could retaliate. So they're going to need somebody, and they're going to need a bond and a union. And that's what took place that day here. It was a wonderful event. We had so many keynote speakers that were here, and I heard everything that they had to say, and it was a wonderful experience. For those of you just getting there, I was in the Army. I was 2-2 infantry, Ramrod. We deployed to Kosovo as peacekeepers. When I was in Kosovo with 2-2 infantry, my spouse went and stayed in Mexico with some of her friends that I didn't know. I didn't meet them until later. But her father would eventually be taken by force from his home in San Diego, California, and he would be dispatched and discarded on the freeway right there on the 805 and Palm Avenue. He was unfortunately moonlighting on the side with some really bad people with the cartel, and they took my first wife's father's life. So that's led us to this battle that we're going through right here, and this press releases and this request for a congressional investigation into the conduct of Mike Thompson. Because when I went to Mike Thompson, I made it very clear that, hey, I have a family, I have to go into a family court circumstance, and the expectation of some of these people is going to be for me to say things that are protected under if you operate against these groups, you're supposed to have the protection of anonymity. You can't even FOIA that information. And I made that clear as a bell to Robert Stamps, which, hey, if y'all are here on Monday we have another court hearing. Robert Stamps, that same judge that you hear telling the gentleman that it's not about guilt or innocence, it's not a criminal circumstance, that it's a civil proceeding. Well, I put that up for a reason, because now I'm going to show you guys what he did with Christine Briseño, which is Robert Stamps, Christine Briseño, and most of the peoples in these videos are defendants in the 42 U.S.C. 1983 civil RICO action that I've preferred in the Eastern District of Virginia. They are also defendants directly across from me at the Washington, D.C. District Court in that action over there. There's two actions in DC, there's one in Virginia, and each one of those people that are in these audios or the videos that you're hearing, they're named defendants in that action for their conduct. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you can hear it from the horse's mouth, and then I'm going to line up the writing for you so you can see that how they get down in Napa and how did we get here to DC. But right now this is the Cannon building. I came here I got all the press releases and a whole bunch of stuff I need to do, but I can't say enough how impressed I was with the courage of both the Americans and the people that came from Mexico to the Cannon building for the CPAC Narco Summit that I attended. It was amazing, man, because I meet so many people here and they just don't get it. They don't understand what I'm navigating through, and I've came to the realization that, I got to speak my mind now, because these people are ambush experts. So I won't get a time to speak. I won't get an opportunity to speak my mind should that come to pass. And the reality is that could come to pass because of the abhorrent conduct of these individuals. And that's why I'm fighting right now, because you never know when they're going to get a hold of you or whatever. And people piss and moan and complain about what's going on, and they keep making up justifications and all this other stuff. And it gives the impression that they're siding with these people that do these horrible things that are crimes against humanity. So if you say, oh, you're a humanitarian and you're all for peace, but you're okay with the cartels that are operating and doing harm to people, and you stand in opposition to the people that are trying to give them a fight, they're not going to stop unless somebody who's willing to meet force with force. There was the what do you call it, the walk for peace here, and it's all nice and wonderful. I get it, I love it. I just don't see how it's gonna how's it gonna stop conflict in certain places. It takes people to go there and be willing to sacrifice everything to stand in opposition to people who do harm to others. We can grow flowers and we can do all this and we can talk and we can be angry, but it's not going to actually change things at the front lines of whatever the issue is. It takes people that are proactive and willing to make sacrifices, time, energy, sometimes everything you have and you don't have. So we're going to go up here inside the building. I don't think I can go through security with the phone on, but I'll go back live again once I get up inside here, because we have some questions that need to be answered, right? Where's that ECAT? We want to get the congressional findings of Representative Congressman Mike Thompson. So let me tap out with you guys, and I'll tap back in once we get somewhere